Today I wanted to share a recipe with you that is already on the blog, but I wasn't able to get it up on the YouTube video until now. And it's my favorite buttermilk biscuit recipe that I use with the einkorn flour. So if you are familiar with einkorn flour, it is just rich in protein, it's rich in many vitamins and minerals, and it's really great for a lot of people who are sensitive to gluten because it has a very weak gluten structure. And so a lot of people can still tolerate it even though it is a wheat. It's actually the original wheat. It is the oldest form of wheat that is known to man that has not been hybridized. And it's really fun to cook with. It has a wonderful sweet flavor to it. Because of that, a lot of whole einkorn does not have the same bite to it as would like a whole wheat flour that you're used to buying. It just has a much sweeter, smoother flavor. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, please do so. It does help this channel to reach more people as we are growing. Check out the complete recipe on the blog, and you are able to print it out there so that you can have it in front of you. So to begin with, you're going to do like you usually do when you're using the oven, and you'll heat it up to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. Then we will mix together all of the dry ingredients. So you'll mix together your einkorn flour, your baking powder, your baking soda, your salt, and if you're using sugar, you'll put that in as well. I don't usually use sugar with this recipe just because the einkorn already has a sweet enough flavor. I don't mind going without the sugar in this. Once that is all mixed up, you will take your butter, and I like to use butter that is cold, so that has been refrigerated for sure. And you want to cut it up into small pieces. The way I do this is I will cut it lengthwise. I'll cut about 3 lines lengthwise on it, and then I will turn it over and do the same thing so that I have crossing paths with my cuts. And then I will turn it to the short end, and I will cut that end off, which will bring about these little tiny squares. A lot of people will use a food processor, and some people have a pastry cutter that they'll use, but this is just my preference. I've learned to do it really fast this way, and it has worked well for me. So you'll mix your butter into those dry ingredients, and then we will add the buttermilk. Now, if you do not have buttermilk, you can always use a little bit of normal milk mixed with some plain whole milk yogurt. And I've done that before. The reason I can't give you specific measurements for this is because yogurts have different consistencies. Just like buttermilk could be a little bit thicker or a little bit thinner depending on the buttermilk. You do want it to definitely be a thick sort of milk, but you don't want it to be super thin either. It kind of reminds me of the consistency of a sourdough starter. So once you have put your buttermilk in, you're going to be slowly combining it and drawing it into a ball, which you can either use the entire ball of dough, or you can save some of it for later. And so I like to cut mine in half, and I will roll that ball, kind of smash it down into a flattened shape, and I'll put it into some plastic wrap, and then I'll put foil over that, and make sure that you write down on it the date and what it is, because you will forget as much as you think you won't. You will most likely forget what it is. If you do want to use the whole recipe, that is fine. You can always leave some of them for the next day. just make sure to have them eaten up in about 3 days. But these are great to save for the next day and use at breakfast time or to make sandwiches out of them. We've done that as well. This recipe will make about 10 biscuits, depending on the size that you make them. And for us, usually we're about happy with 1 biscuit. It's pretty filling with the butter in it, but sometimes you do want a little bit more. So 10 is about the perfect number for us at this point. Now, instead of kneading, I've talked about this a lot, I like to fold the dough. And what this does is it gets a little extra air into the dough, and it also helps the flakiness of your biscuits as they're rising. The thing about einkorn flour, it has a very weak gluten structure, which means that it's not going to hold together and stretch like a lot of the other grains will. So when you see a really fluffy bread at the supermarket, that definitely is not something einkorn can do. Grains in the einkorn will not naturally rise as well as other grains. So when I'm folding my biscuit dough, it's helping it to prepare to rise a little bit more in the oven because of the extra air in between the layers, if that makes sense. So you're going to take your biscuit dough and put it on a lightly floured surface. I do about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch thickness. And I don't have a biscuit cutter, but that is the first thing I would recommend using. If you have one, then use your biscuit cutter. But I just use a canning lid. Now, if you're going to use the canning lid, make sure that if you press it down into the dough, you don't twist as you come out, because that can always lock the dough in place around the edge of your cut biscuit and can prevent it from rising in the oven. And that is the flaky rise that we like to get, which makes a biscuit a biscuit. And so you definitely don't want to be turning your canning lid while you're taking it out of the dough. So then you'll place your cutout biscuits onto a baking sheet and you'll bake them in the oven for about 10 minutes. And then when you take them out of the oven, let them cool for about 5 minutes before serving them. And you can definitely open them up and serve them with butter and jam. I honestly don't feel like they need more butter because it is already so buttery. Some of my kids enjoy honey on them. We've made them into sandwiches, like I said, and we've used them as biscuits and gravy. We've used them with soup. We've used them with breakfast. We've used them with dinner meals. They are just an all-around great bread to have with any meal of the day. This recipe, as well as a ton of other einkorn recipes, are in my new ebook, which I have printed off, which is my einkorn recipes for a cozy winter. Now, this is only going to be up for a couple more weeks before I close it out for the winter and move on to more spring projects. But if you haven't gotten yours yet, then I will put the link on the information below, and you can click on that link and check it out. It really has a lot of other great recipes that I don't have up on my blog even. It has some amazing recipes, cinnamon rolls. It has how to do a whole grain loaf. It has cookie recipes. It has soups. It has the biscuit recipe. It has chicken pot pie. Has all sorts of wonderful, amazing recipes that we love to use, especially during the cold winter months. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you're able to try it out and make some of your own buttermilk biscuits for your family. Just check out the complete recipe on the blog, and you are able to print it out there so that you can have it in front of you. I'll talk to you soon.